The title of this video is no exaggeration. Carlos Alcaraz played the perfect final to win the 2025 US Open. I'll talk about what Carlos did so well to rattle the now former world number one and talk about some interesting comments from Carlos, Juan Carlos, and Jannik. What's good? My name is Christian Basnight and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you have not yet already, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you are notified whenever I post my best and worst dress US Open 2025 video. All hail King Carlos Alcaraz. The Spaniard won his second US Open title and sixth slam overall, defeating Jannik Sinner 6-2, 3-6, 6-1, 6-4. Alcaraz becomes the youngest man to win multiple slams on every surface, all three surfaces, and he's also back to world number one for the first time since September 2023. And I think it's poetic because the first time he won the US Open back in 2022, he clinched the title and the number one ranking with an unreturnable serve out wide, and he did the same exact thing here to win this title. Y'all know I cover tennis from all angles, so I gotta talk about President Donald Trump being in attendance of this final, and that impacted things for fans because of the TSA style security checkpoint for fans to get into the stadium. And there are a lot of fans waiting outside of the stadium, even like during the second set, which was kind of, I feel bad for those fans because I know they missed, they paid a lot of money and they probably missed a good set and a half because Alcaraz was not messing around to start off this match. Carlos came out mad as hell. That forehand was on from the very first point, and Alcaraz was just unrelenting with that forehand for pretty much most of the match. Whenever he got a mid-court forehand, it was just night-night for Jannik. And aside from a couple of off games in that second set, that forehand again remained on for this entire match. Alcaraz also had a much better serving day this match compared to their last slam final meeting at Wimbledon. He improved his first serve percentage from 53% of first serves in at Wimbledon to 61% first serves in New York. And he only allowed Jannik one break point, and he only got broken one time, which was in the second set. And at Wimbledon, he allowed Jannik 9 break point opportunities and got broken a total of 4 times. And Carlos, he barely lost points on serve at points. In the first set, too, he lost just 3 points on serve, and in the third set, he lost just 6 service points. Jannik, meanwhile, had a much worse serving day comparing now to SW19, which is not really a surprise because he had been struggling with his first serve percentage all tournament pretty much. In the Wimbledon final, Jannik served 62% of his first serves in, and here at the US Open final, that dropped down to 48% of first serves in, which is just not going to cut it against Alcaraz, who was returning at such a high level throughout this final and throughout this tournament, really. Sinner served better in the second set, and he had a lot more success behind his second serve. And like Jim Courier said when commentating for this match, that's more reflective of who had more success in the neutral ball rallies. And Sinner was more sharp from the ground, especially from his forehand wing in that second set. And Carlos, meanwhile, had his relatively inevitable level drop, which wasn't too bad, to be honest, but still it was a considerable drop off from the first set, as in set number 2 he hit 5 winners to 11 unforced errors. Alcaraz though picked it right back up in set number 3, and like in the opening set, he finished it with 11 winners to just 2 unforced errors, which is incredible. And it was definitely peak Alcaraz from the ground. His first serve percentage did drop down to 50% in this third set, but it did not matter at all pretty much, as again Carlos was in total control from the ground, and he only allowed Jannik one single winner in this third set. Jannik's best bet in set number 4 was pushing it to a tiebreak, because with how well Carlos was serving, it would just be difficult. Although I do think maybe the first game or so in this fourth set, he had a few small openings. But Sinner's 36% first serve in rate just made life an uphill battle for the Italian. And Jannik also played a pretty sloppy game at 2-all to get broken and concede the final break. And that was pretty much all she wrote for this final. I did think that maybe when Jannik saved the first 2 match points, when Carlos initially served it out at 5-4, that we would maybe get perhaps another Roland Garros 2025 final moment where he would save match points en route to winning. But Carlos was having absolutely none of that, and he closed it out with some really strong play. I got to give it up to Carlos for how well he closed out this final. Jannik gave a pretty solid analysis about how this match went and his point of view in his post-match press conference. He said, "I feel like Carlos was a bit cleaner today. The things that went well in London, he did better today. That's the result. I feel like he was doing everything slightly better today, especially serving both sides, both swings very clean. That's it. I give lots of credit to him because he handled the situation better than I did. Jannik also said that he himself was too predictable out there, and he is aiming to refine his game to become more of a multi-dimensional player, especially in these matchups against Carlitos. I was very predictable today, on court in the way of he did many things. He changed up the game. That's also his style of how he plays. Now it's going to be on me if I want to make changes or not, Definitely we're going to work on that. I'm going to try to be prepared for the next match that I will play against him. It also depends on how you arrive to play against Carlos. During this tournament, I didn't make one serve and volley. I didn't use a lot of drop shots, and then you arrive to a point when you play against Carlos where you have to go out of your comfort zone. So I'm going to aim to, maybe even losing some matches from now on, but trying to do some changes, trying to be a bit more unpredictable as a player, because I think that's what I have to do, trying to become a better tennis player. First, giving my 2 cents, I think that Jannik could have mixed up his serve a little bit more and maybe went body at Carlos more. And I also think that he could have mixed it up with slices, both offensive and defensive slices, to get Carlos more out of his comfort zone. And of course, I do think that Jannik needed to tidy it up a little bit more from the ground, especially in those tight moments. He just kind of made way too many uncharacteristic, unforced errors from that forehand side in the crucial moments, and that costed him. But I do think that it's cool that these guys are so open about being inspired from one another to become better tennis players. Both Juan Carlos and Carlos said after the Wimbledon finals that they intentionally practice with the purpose of beating Jannik, and that's understandable because Jannik is truly Carlos's only competition at the majors right now, at least. Alcaraz said, right after the match, I just thought that I need to improve some things if I want to beat him after that Wimbledon final. Obviously, right after that, I didn't practice, so I just took a week for myself, not doing anything at all. But right after that match, it felt like, okay, when I start practicing, I just want to practice this, and this. I just thought about the specific things that I want to improve if I want to beat Jannik. So I just spent 2 weeks before Cincinnati just practicing specific things about my game that I need or I felt like I needed to improve if I want to beat him. First, I think this shows that Carlos learned a lot from that Olympics finals loss from 2024, which undeniably had a negative impact on him for months after that loss. He truly didn't let that Wimbledon loss get to him as he said it wouldn't, and I think he rather used it as fuel to make himself an even better player, which we obviously saw after that loss. And it also exemplifies, those quotes also exemplifies the beauty of this rivalry, how both Jannik and Carlos are actively refining their games to beat one another, and that'll only make each other better tennis players in the long run. And I feel like that's only bad news for the other guys because Sincaraz, I think, again, them trying to retool their games to make them better players for when they have to face each other in these finals, that'll only widen the gap between them and the rest of the field. But back to Jannik's point about Carlos's unpredictability and talking about how his variety aided him in this specific final matchup, I think that Carlos, he had definitely had more success with his drop shots comparing his last match against Novak Djokovic in the semifinals where he won a few points. But here today in this final, he won quite a few points from that. And I think that although some of it was due to Jannik just cutting it way too short when trying to make those passing shots, making them a little bit too perfect. But on the flip side, you can say that some of that was due to the pressure from Carlos and his exceptional net play and forcing Jannik to kind of play the perfect shot. Speaking of net play, I think Carlos and him charging to the net on a lot of balls that guys wouldn't, for sure helped him a lot in this match and kind of threw Jannik and got him out of his own rhythm. I think that also Carlos did an exceptional job of using his backhand slice a little bit more this time around, which was a true asset throughout this final. He used the slice as both a setup shot to dictate, but also he got a few errors from Sinner whenever Carlos employed that slice. And I feel like he won nearly every point Carlos did whenever he hit the backhand slice. Now, Carlos has always used variety in his matchups with Jannik, but I think the difference this time around was that Alcaraz was simply just too good and nowhere near as charitable as he was in previous matches with the ebbs and flows of his game. And he just had a high winner count, low unforced error count, really peak Carlitos. And Juan Carlos Ferrero said it best himself. He said, the performance today was perfect. I think he compromised himself to go for the match all the time, tried to put pressure on the rival sooner than Jannik did. I think it's one of the keys. I think these guys hit the ball, both of them, very, very fast. And I think who hits first takes advantage on points. Carlos maybe has more variety on his game, and he can do more, like slice, go to the net, and do more things than maybe Jannik. But I think it helps a lot to change a little bit the way of the games. But yeah, I would say the match was perfect for Carlos, and the performance was unbelievable. I definitely think this was Carlos's best tournament, period, from start to finish. He only dropped one set, and I think he for sure quieted all the critics who said that he is just way too lackadaisical and unfocused and not as business-like compared to Sinner. And I just feel like this tournament, the roles were completely reversed. This should be a scary moment, a scary tournament for the rest of the field, including for Jannik, because it showed that Carlos indeed can be ruthless from start to finish and can handle business like Jannik can. I wonder if Carlos can keep this type of level and form as we head into the fall and indoor season, as that hasn't been the most successful stretch for him comparing it to years prior. But I do think it's a good omen that he was able to beat Jannik so convincingly in indoors, as the final was played indoors due to rain outside. I already knew that this was going to be an uphill battle for Jannik with how poorly he had served throughout this tournament leading up to this final. I don't think he would have won the match anyways, but perhaps he could have pushed it to 5 if he had a better serving day. I do think Jannik will bounce back and employ more variety in his game like he said he would, like the serving and volleying and other aspects too, like he said. I also think that Jannik would benefit from improving his defensive game a little bit more, maybe employing a little bit more slices and things of that nature, both, again, offensive and defensive slices. But, again, like he said, that might just take some time. It might take some losses before he finally retools his game to be a consistent, more all-around player like he's striving to be. Great tournament for Jannik. He should be very proud of himself. I do wonder, y'all can answer this in the comments, but do you feel like Jannik is still the king of hard courts, as his win streak at hard court slams was snapped as he won 27 in a row, or do you feel like Carlos is assuming that position from him? Now, focusing a little bit more on Alcaraz now, it's really been an exceptional run from the Spaniard. This marks now 8 straight finals that he's made since the Miami Open second round loss to David Goffin. And I still think Carlos does not get anywhere near enough credit for how well he bounced back from that loss, because I remember how fans were already writing him off, calling him washed at 22 or washed at 21 at the time, and everything under the sun. But he truly continues to prove people wrong, and that's the mark of an all-time great champion. And again, I think he beat everyone's criticism of him just being way too inconsistent. I think, yeah, he might have laughed it off and be like, oh, it's okay, like I'll do me. But I think he truly took that criticism to heart, and it made him a better player. Speaking of 8, this marks the 8th straight slam won by either Carlos or Jannik, and is very reminiscent of the Federer and Nadal slam dominance from the mid-2000s to early 2010s. And I asked this question after our last 2 Sincaraz slam finals, but can there be a Djokovic of some sort to arise, or even a Del Potro to ascend and put a stop to the dominance for now, like end the streak of them winning all these slams in a row? Again, while these matches are great, these are clearly the 2 best players that we have right now, head and shoulders. It might get tired having the same 2 guys face off in these slam finals. Talking about some guys that could eventually arise and ascend. Ben Shelton, y'all know I talk about him pretty much every time when I have this conversation, but I truly think we were robbed of that quarterfinal between Shelton and Alcaraz. Of course, he was injured due to a shoulder injury. I don't think that Shelton would have won this match, but I think that he probably could have given Carlos the biggest threat or biggest test of this entire tournament. Then another lefty, Jack Draper, I think has that edginess and a little bit of flair, but the biggest thing with him is he just needs to remain healthy. That's pretty much it. And then the guy that impressed me the most this tournament was Felix Auger-Aliassime. He showed that he does have the game to challenge these guys. The question is, can he build on that semifinal run and excel? He could be the guy maybe that can make some slam finals and cause havoc for Jannik and Carlos. And then these other guys might need more time, but of course, Joao Fonseca, also Artur Fils. The main problem with him right now is that back issue. But, John McEnroe brought up this guy too, but Jakub Mędrzyk, he did win Miami, but he still has a little bit more work to do as far as making him an all-around player, refining areas and aspects of his game. You also got Holger Rune, maybe Flavio Cobolli as well, but still, for the time being, it's Sincaraz's world, and it might not be until 2025, I feel, to where we have someone not named Carlos or Jannik lift a major trophy. Now, of course, Carlos is back to number 1. He ends Sinner's run of 65 consecutive weeks in a row, and Carlos now starts his 37th week atop the ATP rankings. Carlos currently holds a 750 lead atop the rankings over Jannik, and he also has the advantage because he's defending fewer points compared to the Italian. For the rest of the year, Carlos is only defending about 1,000 points. The Spaniard only won Beijing as far as titles is concerned, but Jannik is defending about 2,800 points, winning Shanghai and going undefeated at the ATP finals. I think that we will get a true battle for world number one at the finals. I hope we get it as the final match of the season. That would be the perfect end to this Sincaraz heavy season, and I can see Jannik making up a lot of ground at the Paris indoor tournaments because he skipped that tournament last year. Carlos also, I can maybe see him suffer from burnout around the time of the finals rolling around. He is playing Davis Cup right after this, after he celebrates and drinks all the champagne, and then right after that, Laver Cup. Then you got the Tokyo 500, Shanghai, the Six Kings Slams, Paris, ATP Finals, and then Davis Cup Finals if he qualifies. I can see him pulling out of a few of these tournaments, especially Paris. So I do think the battle for year-end number one will be tight. I don't think that Alcaraz has it wrapped up in the bag at all. Focusing on the present, I do think this might go down as Carlos's most dominant slam title run, period. But it's hard to say, though, because he's still just 22 years old. So he has so many years ahead of him. I'm not going to say too much because it's still pretty early. He is just at 6 slams, and 18 is a lot more to go. But he very well could surpass Nole's 24 slam count. I'm going to leave y'all with that. That is all I have for this US Open men's final recap video. And let me know your thoughts on this final and what you'd rate it from a scale of 1 to 10 as far as entertainment level. I'd give it a 6.5 out of 10. I'll give it that. Cool 6.5. Also, I will keep my word. I said that if Carlos wins the tournament, I will be cutting my hair. So the next time y'all see me, my hair will be considerably shorter. Not Alcaraz length, but definitely lower. Again, make sure you all subscribe and click that notification bell so you are notified whenever I post my fashion review video for this tournament. Thank you all so much for watching and for your continued support, and I will see you all next time here on Christian's Court.